So we are about to go now for our African champion segment. Stay with us.
African champions.
African champion.
African champions.
African champions.
Our African champion today is Elizabeth Thorn Scott Flood.
You be champion.
Elizabeth Thorn Scott Flood was a 19th century African American educator and activist in California who fought for equal education rights for all children in Oakland, in California, especially those of African descent. You know, very, very important because it all started when her son, was refused admission. He was refused to be granted admission at a certain school, and it was like not only her but other neighbors, who are also facing the same problem. She was like, "No, this is something that has to change." So, on the 29th of May in 1854. Elizabeth opened her doors in Sacramento at a Sacramento home and invited 14 students, to actually start learning something. She started, teaching them some basics in terms of reading, writing, and what have you. So the simple act established the first private school for African American children in the city of Sacramento. So, I mean, it was an unpleasant, experience to find out your child or your personality is not actually welcome in that particular or in wherever jurisdiction you find yourself because of the issue of racism and racial segregation and what have you. So this is something that actually allowed her to really go the extra mile to establishing the private school and admitting, children or wards of her neighbors and other friends, and even the adults who actually needed some form of, education to be able to find themselves through any difficult, child period or something. So this is something that was very, very important, and she actually took on the challenge. Now, within 3 months of opening her home to students, Elizabeth was in need of a larger classroom because children of Asian and Native American descent also wanted to enroll. It was that bad a situation whereby not just those of African descent, but some persons of color, Asian and Native Americans, even looking to get themselves enrolled to her institution, her school, because of the fact that they were not able to access the schools around that place. Now, within a year, the Sacramento School Board accepted it into the official school district. That is the one that was opened by Elizabeth. But then something happened. The board refused to provide her with any funding, following the example of the rest of the of the states. Although the California Constitutional Convention had introduced a tax fund for state schools in 1849. Local school boards routinely granted funding to white supremacist schools only. Yeah, you're not good enough to be to be impossible or to also learn what we are learning. So you don't have access to this particular form of education. So as such, Elizabeth's students agreed to pay tuition of $1 per week to keep her doors open. I mean, very, very interesting, personality or character right there. She actually moved also with her family to Oakland, where she also opened another, school or educational facility to also, teach, these minority group who don't have access to education. She actually designed a curriculum from the scratch to to enhance, to help, in the teaching and everything. She was also, involved actively in fighting for equal access to education to everybody. Activism in that field, which was very, very important. But unfortunately, she passed on, at a very young age, I must say, and her husband, Mr. Flood, who was also more of like interested in supporting his wife in that cause, took up the mantle and continued. And it actually brought about the fact that at a point in time, they were allowed, or African American, children or adults or persons of colors of Asian descent, Native Americans had the opportunity to attend, the school that was supposed to be made for everyone. So yeah, very important personality, and that's her contribution. I mean, very very immense to education, to educating the African American, children, adults, people of African descent from across the world who were in California at that time, and those in Oakland, and others also drew inspiration from what she did, because that's something that if they don't give you the opportunity, think about how you'll be also, come up with a solution to teach your wards, because they cannot live without education. That's very, very something that, you wouldn't want to endanger anybody in this particular world. And that was as back as the 19th century. Take a look at that. Fast forward 21st century. I think it has actually improved significantly. So, Madam Elizabeth Flood.
You are an African champion.
Okay, the show is Africa Daily on Africa Global Radio. I am Barry Musa, and you can follow us on Facebook, Africa Global Radio, on Twitter, AF Global Radio. The hashtag is the Africa Daily Show.